Be warned. By accessing this, you acknowledge that you are at least of high silver security, or have been given special exception for this file. You will not in any way discuss or disseminate information with anyone who is not also of at least high silver or has also been granted access via special exception. Presented in writing and verified through Inquisition security. Failure to comply will result in immediate incarceration, conscription, or termination as determined by the Inquisitor of charge of your sentencing. You will not be allowed a trial. The following is a report on the various top-secret super soldier programs that are currently active and being done by the Empire. Imperial Report, Advanced and Enhanced Soldier Program. Author, Barris Valiance. Date, Astaroth 23, 499 UG. Project Start, Apollo 1, 012 UG. The Enhanced Soldier Program is one of the oldest secret programs of the Empire, started by the Empress Van Aurelian, the second emperor after the Golden Emperor. It was designed from the beginning to provide elite soldiers and the related equipment in order to secure the Empire and act as special operations, to deploy both independently and in support of regular soldiers of the Golden Army. Each type of soldier is enhanced differently, but all involve some mixture of genetic, surgical, magical, and mechanical augmentation. The following is a list and brief overview of each soldier type, including its state of origin, the geneticist or scientist who created the base, their general purpose, and special instances and examples. As a rule, enhanced soldiers come in two main types, differing depending on their origin. They are either recruited or cloned. Recruited members are enhanced post-birth and often recruited as youth by the Inquisition's black ships. Clone members are given random genetic noise in order to alter superficial cosmetic appearance, so as to keep there from being potentially hundreds of identical soldiers being deployed at a time. As a matter of course, all enhanced soldiers are sterilized before their first deployment, in order to keep genetic alterations from escaping into the wild. All recruited soldiers are allowed to retire with pensions if they survive for their full 30-year service tour. Clone soldiers are relocated to planet Hell 8 to live out their lives in retirement, an option given to recruited soldiers as well. Some soldiers, like Icarus subjects, are kept in special treatment facilities where the conditions are continuously monitored. Others, like custodians, are not given a specified time limit to their service and usually remain active until their death in the line of duty. To date, no Ulfrenar has survived to retirement, though in theory, if one did, they would be allowed to retire as any other super soldier. Achilles. Type, recruited. Augmentations, genetic and cybernetic. Lead development scientist, Uli Sekhmet, Yosoki. Date of implementation, Saphira 24, 017 UG. Created to be force multipliers, the Achilles program recruits entirely from the ranks of the Galactic Golden Army. Soldiers who have proven themselves to be skilled, loyal, and capable of sound independent tactical strategy. Crucially, these soldiers are also people who have been injured and would otherwise be incapable of service. They are given the opportunity to continue serving the Empire with honor and distinction. All Achilles receive genetic and surgical modifications to make them stronger, faster, and more durable. Soldiers who are heavily damaged, that even with extensive medical assistance, they would be unable to continue, are given the option of being installed into a mausoleum unit, or mouse unit. Mouse units are specially designed power armor suits that are designated to be more akin to tanks than infantry. Remnants of an Achilles soldier that are placed inside of a reinforced sarcophagus permanently, and then installed into a mouse unit when necessary. The sarcophagus maintains their body and mind and allows for their continued life. When these are then installed into mouse units, they are outfitted as needed for mission at hand and act largely as fire support for the regular soldier. Achilles soldiers are noted for their ability to act independently and adapt to a great deal of situations. They are specifically trained in infiltration and survival, and as such are often deployed solo or in small fire teams to accomplish specific goals behind enemy lines. While stealthy when necessary, it is noted that Achilles soldiers are often unsubtle in their tactics, preferring to simply eradicate anything in their way when possible. The exact number of Achilles soldiers vary, but the Empire strives to maintain a 1 to 100,000 ratio within the regular army. Due to rigorous requirements to be considered for recruitment, though training does have a 90% success rate. Custodians. Type: recruited. Augmentations: magical, genetic, and surgical. Developing scientist: Savita Bain, Drow. Date of implementation: Eberist 3002 UG. Designed and created largely by the Golden Emperor to be primarily bodyguards and personal military of the Emperor. Recruited exclusively from Death Worlds as children under the age of 10, they are immediately given genetic alteration to enhance every physical and mental aspect by having redacted DNA spliced into their own. The genetic source and code are kept secret from everyone involved, and even speculating as to its source could result in immediate termination. Recruits are entered into brutal training regimes. Originally sourced in groups of 10,000 each class is winnowed down to just 100 candidates by the time they are age 12. Those who fail are terminated, either in the course of their training or upon officially filing from their class. Their classmates are the ones who perform the executions of those who have failed. By the age of 16, the class has been further reduced to just 10. These go through surgical enhancement to add a series of extra organs, physical reinforcements of bones and skin. These enhancements are not easy and have a 95% rate of rejection, which is always fatal. This means that in half of the classes, all potential recruits will die. Only one will survive out of the remaining 50%. The custodian recruitment process is a 1 in 20,000 survival rate. At any given time, there are no more than 10,000 custodians active. Those who survive surgery are then brought to the custodian hall on the Golden Throne and begin to be trained by veteran custodians. It is here they are first fitted with their power armor, given their official weapons, and trained in every available form of combat, survival, tactics, history, and other such subjects. They are expected to become masters of each. Given the genetic enhancements they have received, they have greatly increased their lifetimes. The training is to become a full custodian continues until the trainee reaches at least 30, though they continue their education as they grow. They are also heavily indoctrinated to be loyal to the current emperor above all things. When the emperor dies, it is the custodians who choose the next through a process known only to them. An average custodian is in active service for 200 years, though there are a small number of custodians still active who are from the original batch and have been serving for nearly 500 years. They do age, but they do so very slowly, appearing to be physically middle-aged at this time. The custodian's gear is constantly being updated as technology and magic advance. However, when deployed, they wear a pattern of enhancement armor that was originally created by the Golden Emperor and crafted in secure facilities on the Golden Throne itself. To date, there has never been a case of a custodian betraying their code of loyalty. Icarus. Type: cloned. Original donor: Z. Tempest, Pasteur. Augmentations: magical and genetic. Lead development scientists: Yvonne Till, Lashunta. Date of implementation: Shinron 2, 333 UG. Developed originally as a way to create seers for military purposes and cloned from one of the most successful seers in the Empire's history, Icarus soldiers have proven to be less prescient than their original, but they are possessing enough of foresight and to be able to make split-second decisions in the heat of battle. They are given genetic infusions in which they have the ability to produce chemicals in response that increase their temporal awareness. This ability, as well as the reaction time enhancements given, has made them ideal pilots and bodyguards. The overwhelming majority of them operate as pilots in the Galaxy Navy for special forces and high-risk flight missions. It is noted that prolonged use of their abilities can lead to mental degradation, a trait common among those with foresight. The future is often chaotic and rapidly changing, and the stress caused by this can cause symptoms in Icarus soldiers that resemble madness, with them reacting to events that haven't happened, and because of their actions, do not happen. The distance into the future does increase the older an Icarus soldier is, but so does the instability. As such, the average Icarus soldier has experienced a expected functional lifespan of between 12 and 20 years. The longest-serving Icarus pilot has been functioning for 22 years to date. The Icarus soldiers are grown at Imperial Science Station 225B. Icarus soldiers are quick-grown in their creation process and come out at a biological age of 18, with full training and implementation completed during their gestation. An Icarus soldier can go from being born to fully operational as a pilot in 10 days during emergency deployment. Occasional quirk of mutation allows some Icarus to have vastly different abilities of sight. These are taken back to Station 225B when identified in order to see if their mutation is useful and able to be replicated. Munin. Type: cloned. Original unknown. A unique entity. Augmentation: genetic and cybernetic. Lead development scientist: Alvaron. Species unknown. Date of implementation: Eberisk 30 122 UG. Precise details of the development of the Munin soldiers are unknown. The being known as Alvaron simply arrived at the Golden Throne and spoke directly with Emperor Tazil Aurelian. It was after this that the Imperial Research Station 42 was created specifically to be able to create the Munin pattern of clone. In their natural state, Munin look like blank slates, gray and nearly featureless and sexless. When born, they are without personality, though they have all the implanted information and standard indoctrination that one would expect. However, through physical contact, they can absorb information from willing participants and incorporate it into their own psyche. They can either seek specific information that they will then recall as if it were their own memory, or gain more general overview of information. They can also then add their subject's physical characteristics to their own. In this way, they are mimics. Most have trouble becoming some specific people, but they can excel at creating and inhabiting new persona and look close enough to an individual, nearly regardless of species, to be easily taken for a sibling. Some few are exceptionally skilled and can perfectly replicate individuals. Munin can forcibly copy information from a victim, but it leaves the victim comatose in 95% of instances. In any case, the victim is aware of what is happening to them, and the process is reportedly extremely traumatic. Regardless, the ability to rapidly accrue information makes them invaluable resources for all services. The ability to read a willing subject allows them to gather more information about a memory than even the subject can recall, as all Munin have perfect recall, even able to notice things in a memory that the initial subject did not through an unknown divinatory process. This makes the Munin a priority in any instance in which they are deployed. They cannot be allowed to fall in enemy hands. Almost all Munin alter their appearance to be a unique individual, eventually resembling the people they have spent the most time around. Many choose a base species and stay within that. Munin have an aversion to any sort of technological implementation, experiencing debilitating migraines, in some cases being rendered entirely catatonic when any cybernetics are given. The process for creating a Munin is mostly arcane in nature, involving spells that are specifically authorized by the Golden Throne, which in other cases would be illegal. Munin do not appear to age, but they do have a limited lifespan of 62 years precisely, simply ceasing to live exactly on their 62nd birthday. It is unknown why. When originally delivered, the Munin pattern was purged of all lingering genetic, magical, and technological instances that could allow it to have give its information to Alvaron, who is listed as a Class 1 entity, which means that the Empire is to remain out of all contact with them. Despite that, nearly every scientist who has worked on this project has made requests to be allowed to contact Alvaron, with every request being denied. However, in 450, it was noted that the DNA that was being used as a basis for Munin began to degrade. It was at this time Alvaron simply appeared without notice, or apparent means of transport at the cloning facility and provided fresh DNA samples to work with. Comparison between these and the original revealed them to be identical. Alvaron disappeared just as suddenly as he arrived after eating an entire chocolate cake in the cafeteria. Samsara. Type: cloned. Original: Allison Creed, human. Augmentation: genetic. Lead development scientist: Savita Bain, drow. Date of implementation: Cadmus 1200 UG. Created at the behest of the Golden Emperor and finished under Emperor Van Aurelian just before their death, the Samsara project revolves around the continued perfection of a single genetic code until it is, quote, suitable for purpose. What that means is known only to the Empress, which began as a project designed only for the experimentation, became a way to provide genetically superior soldiers to the Shadow Corps. In effect, the project ended up with dozens and then hundreds of enhanced individuals who had no greater purpose than their genetics. As such, so as not to waste the potential, they were given training in order to become assassins, spies, and empirical troubleshooters. They are almost always deployed individually to deal with specific issues or situations. The genetics of the Samsara subjects have been heavily modified, with each new generation being iterated upon further, so that any specific update to their abilities or enhancements would depend heavily on what batch they were from. However, there are a few through lines. Every physical and mental trait is enhanced in a manner akin to Achilles. They have enhanced lifespans, access to a variety of magical abilities, the most common of which seems to be the ability to become invisible at will, as well as resistance to numerous energy types. But the most surprising is spontaneous regeneration. When they die, if left in the presence of Dionysium, they will resurrect without the need of further magic or ritual. To date, this can only occur once for each Samsara, but due to this, each Samsara is implanted with enough Dionysium to allow for a resurrecting in the case of their death. This is also kept from them to discourage unnecessary recklessness. Where other clone beings must be given information, history, and indoctrination as they are grown, the Samsara subjects all have a set of memories already in place upon their creation. The details of the memories change, names, dates, locations, but the overall story is the same. Each Samsara member remembers living on a planet that was affected by an incredibly virulent plague that they survived due to natural immunity. This led to seek revenge, eventually coming into contact with a powerful being, sometimes an angel, sometimes a demon, sometimes a god, and many others, who grants them power enough to accomplish their goals in exchange for their service once it's complete. They then recall a time of operating for this being, in which they received an assortment of training unique to each Samsara member, that they are fully capable of implementing immediately upon being birthed. Their memories always cut out 5 years after meeting their patron, and as far as they know, they awaken in the cloning facility after that time. In order to facilitate their use as agents, they are allowed to keep these skills and memories and are told they are being awoken from cryofreeze. They are then given training in their specific roles and deployed. Each batch of Samsara is 24 individuals, and generations are born between 80 and 120 batches at a time. Though, it should be noted that depending on the batch and time, there are many rejections for this process. These rejections are usually culled and the genetic material studied and then reused. Cosmetic genetic alterations that make them all different in appearance, but they are all born biologically female. This project reports directly to the Empress. Ulfrednar. Type: recruited. Augmentation: genetic. Lead development scientist: leaf throat cutter. Vesk. Date of implementation: Gitera 10-237 UG. Created in response to a virulent outbreak in the Alpha Quadrant of lycanthropy, Ulfrednar were designed to be engines of pure destruction and carnage. Otherwise known as wolf warriors, they were recruited from criminals with excessively violent profiles and genetically enhanced. Wolf warriors are capable of entering into a berserker state in which they physically transform, gaining fur, claws, teeth, and enhanced strength, speed, and resistance to damage similar to that of a lycanthrope. Unlike other lycanthropes, they are not overridden by a curse. Instead, upon transforming, their minds and bodies are flooded with hormones and battle stems to make them able to ignore pain and increase aggression levels to the maximum available. Wolf warriors who have transformed are largely incapable of recognizing friend from foe, aside from other wolves. They operate in packs that pursue combat and any target to take the rage out on that they can reach. While still capable of using ranged weaponry, almost all wolves prefer melee weapons. Generally, they are dropped behind enemy lines and simply unleashed, told to report to a specified extraction point. Anyone who doesn't make it is considered lost. As such, they have a tendency to be left behind on an individual level. It's not only expected, it's trained for. Wolves who have completed their mission and missed their extraction have two directives. One is to continue to wreak as much havoc as possible for as long as possible, or if they are unable to do so for whatever reason, they are to return to friendly lines as soon as they are capable. Occasionally, Ulfrinn are deployed with other units, but these are ones who have proven their ability to control their battle rage enough to differentiate between friend and foe. Even still, units with embedded wolves are given explicit orders on when and how to terminate any out-of-control wolf.